to identify themselves to the chair. The moderator will unmute applicants when they are called upon to speak during their portion of the agenda. Applications or presentations provided by the applicant will be displayed in the virtual meeting by the moderator and advanced by the moderator. Or if pre-approved for larger projects, temporary panelist capabilities may be given to presenters to share their screens while giving their presentation. All presenters and speakers need to identify themselves by first, last name, and affiliation when speaking. For public hearings, during the portion of the hearing designated for the public comment, the chair will ask who in the audience has any public comments or questions. Members of the public may speak by selecting the raise hand button or pressing 9 on their phone and waiting for the chair to call on them to speak. Alternative to making comments via the online audio or phone, you may also submit comments to the moderator via the virtual meeting chat function during the public comment period only, when announced by the chair. To do this, click on the chat icon and type your message. When prompted, the moderator will read comments and questions into the record. Members of the public recognized by the chair are asked to identify themselves by first and last name and affiliation for the public record and then provide their comment. Prior to concluding opportunities for public comment, the chair will ask one last time if anyone wishes to speak or give additional comment. I will now hand the meeting back to the board.
Well, thank you again, Ms. Clark. For those who don't know it, Ms. Clark is also the board secretary, along with being a wonderful moderator this evening. So we have 4 matters on our agenda. We'll start with one that's been here for a while. That is the continued hearing of petition 4841, that of Robert Giglio, with property located at 44 Mattachee Road, South Yarmouth, Massachusetts. Is anyone here on behalf of the petitioner?
There's a hand raised from Paul Revere.
All right. For those in our audience, before we call on Mr. Revere, I do want you to know that this is a matter that's been continued from twice prior, I think, and we're not going to go over all the meeting contents because it was the review tonight and unexpected or unanticipated that we go forward. So if you can unmute Mr. Revere, we would be thrilled to hear from him.
Mr. Revere, you're unmuted.
Thank you. Dan Ogil and I and the Giglios were having a little hard time trying to get in here at the moment, and Dan found the passcode. So I don't know if they've made it in, though I'm not sure. It's extremely important. I didn't think Dan was going to make it. This matter involves a front yard setback issue for a stairway and was continued because the Giglios have a wetland proceeding. As I'm sure you well know, in Yarmouth, there's a floodplain that goes way into this area between Route 28 and the Nantucket Sound. And the floodplain matter, the neighbor, the O'Sheas, have appealed, and therefore and the DEP is moving very slowly, and therefore they don't want to go forward on this on the Zoning Board of Appeals matter until they have this wetland issue completely straightened out, so they have a final plan. And so as I see it, we're basically caught with 2 issues here, and that is one, either to withdraw, completely, or to move to a date out about 6 months and have the board require us to re-notify abutters beforehand. I prefer the latter only for the reason that the Giglios have told the building department that they will seek zoning relief. So basically, there's no enforcement going on regarding this stairway that goes into the setback because we're attempting to get zoning relief, and the zoning relief is not moving forward because of the wetlands protection. I have also, I should say, we have no intent to go forward primarily because the O'Sheas who are abutters are interested in the proceeding, and I informed them that I would not be going forward tonight. And I don't want to go back on my word to an abutter. In any event, I guess it's with the board's pleasure is to either withdrawal of the appeals or to a continuance with a requirement that we re-notify abutters at the new time period. Do you have any questions, members?
Well, I'll be happy to direct that. Thanks, Mr. Revere, Attorney Revere. Mr. Igo, any questions of Mr. Revere?
Good evening. I guess my question is, do you have any idea how long it's going to take you to get through the Conservation Commission in order to, if we were to continue this matter instead of you withdrawing it, do you have any idea how long it would take you to get through the conservation process so you could get back to us?
Okay. Can I answer?
Sure, please. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, sometimes questions come through the chairman and boards. I don't actually, excuse me. That is Bob Giglico trying to get in touch with me.
Now, you don't have your a camera on. We'd be delighted to see you as we always are. If you want to turn it on.
I don't, I usually go through the app, and for whatever reason, I tried going through the website because we're having problems with
Trying to add him as a panelist.
There you are.
We hadn't added him as a panelist.
I got you.
He is now.
Your mic's now off.
Okay. I don't have
Well, it's good to see you again.
but the nice heavy horn rim ones. In any event, okay. So to answer Mr. Igo's questions, the Conservation Commission approved my client's project. The O'Sheas have asked for a superseding order of conditions for which we had a site visit in November of 2020, and we have heard nothing back. The neighbors have also filed a Superior Court action on the Conservation Commission's local bylaw action. So the long and short of it is I could probably tell you that I think that the DEP will act within the next 6 months, but the Superior Court action could be significantly more lengthy, although both, in my opinion, are fairly frivolous. In fact, when I must say, I went to this property, I remember years ago, many years ago, doing a hearing with the zoning board and how they mentioned how the floodplain goes way into this area because this is a floodplain issue. It's not a what I'll call a wetland issue.
Well, I think why don't we shy away from the substantive issues of your petition and deal with the procedural one that's before us. I don't mean to shut you up, but we've got other hearings coming up tonight.
Yep.
And as you know, this was to be a substantive hearing. If we can just get to the procedural questions that the members might have. Dick, do you have any questions, Mr. Revere?
No, not beyond what Sean already asked.
Oh, I'm getting somebody raising their hand. Yes.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I think we have a bit of a dilemma because after hearing the comments that people were having trouble getting into the meeting
Yes.
because they don't have the passcode. The passcode was not published on the agenda. So I don't know that the meeting should continue, to be quite.
Well, if there's a hyperlink, I got in through the hyperlink.
Did you got in through the hyperlink that we sent by your invitation?
On the
I don't, Mr. Revere,
invitation,
can you
sure.
tell me how you got in? To the
Dan Ojala apparently had it somewhere and he texted it to me.
Dan,
It's the only reason. It's not on the
yeah,
agenda.
it's
anyway.
not on the agenda. Mr. Chair, can I allow Dan Ojala to speak? To see how he got the passcode? I want to just make sure it's
Well,
not,
we could announce the passcode if someone's listening, or you don't think they?
I think that it needed to be part of the posted agenda, Sean, because we haven't
Oh,
provided fair and open access to the
I
meeting.
wasn't able to get in either. I didn't have the passcode, so I wasn't able to get any part of it.
You weren't Tim, huh?
Yeah, Tim,
Yeah.
you should have gotten it through the invite that Sandy sent directly from Zoom to you.
Oh, what
Okay.
that
I
has,
went to the wrong email. Sorry.
what we now have is a meeting that's been
Been
noticed, but
posted.
people can't participate in. So I don't know how we're gonna go forward tonight.
That, I agree.
I do think that since this is a procedural issue, this petition, we can address this pretty simply because we're not getting into the substantive merits of it. So on a procedural basis, Tim, did you have any questions of Mr. Revere?
I do not.
Okay,
You-
well, back when this was last heard in July, I put a memo into the file. And I don't think it's necessary to read the memo altogether now, but I was present, Sean was present, Dick was present, our former member, Susan Britta was present, and our former member, Tom Nicanello was present, all voting in favor of what we agreed was a continuance, a lengthy continuance. And in discussion of it, it was pretty clear that we weren't going to be inclined to extend it further. Just because we can't have open petitions, it's not fair to Sandy. And I think that particularly with a Superior Court action having been filed, and Attorney Revere, you know how bad that's going to be in the Superior Court. It's backed up. And I think, why don't we be sensible about this, allow you to withdraw with prejudice
without
and
prejudice.
refile as if and when you get the Concom approval.
Mr. Chairman, just clarification, you were suggesting that he withdraw without prejudice, correct?
Oh, did I say with prejudice? I apologize. Without, of course,
Yeah.
of course. Of course. Without prejudice. Would that be something you'd like us to consider?
Yeah, I think, as I said, there were just two options, and my only problem with withdrawal was merely that my client had promised the building commissioner that they would pursue this to the extent that they could, and they will continue to hold to that promise.
Sure.
There's no
And-
question. We're being watched by the neighbor, so it's going to happen.
Well, I'll be happy to put a memorandum into the file again, that with the withdrawal, it was because of the timeliness of the next appearance you'd be here, not because we're not interested in hearing it on the merits. All right?
Yep.
And so if the building commissioner has an issue, he can always go back to this file and see what our action has been.
Yep.
So you're making a request, a certain request for the withdrawal of this petition without prejudice. Is that right?
Yes, the
Enough
Giglio
said.
like to withdraw without prejudice.
Okay. Is there someone prepared to make a motion on that?
So moved.
Mr. Igo moves to approve that motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. On the motion made by Mr. Igo, seconded by Mr. Martin, to allow the withdrawal of this petition without prejudice. Sorry about that early on. Does anyone care to speak either in favor of it or against it, being board members? And there being no hands going up for discussion, we have to take it by roll call vote. Mr. Igo, on your motion?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly on the motion?
Aye.
Mr. Martin on the motion?
Aye.
And Mr. DeYoung, I vote aye as well. So that carries unanimously. We look forward to you recommencing the petition in the future, and have a good evening. Yes.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, Karen,
Yeah, I'm sorry. I hate to interrupt. So Mr. Tardif is in attendance at the meeting and he's had his hand raised for some time. So I'm hoping that the board would like to hear what Mr. Tardif is looking to say. I'm not sure if it's.
Well, if it's on this petition,
or-
why don't we invite him to merely answer, is it on this petition? I don't know why he's raising his hand, but
I don't know.
so let's ask him.
Mr. Tardif, your hand is raised. Is it relevant to this? I'm going to lower his hand. Okay.
Didn't know you could do that.
Oh, but for Tom Nicanello.
Sorry.
They're better looking than Tom.
Yeah, but he was a great IT whiz.
What do you think they are?
May we
They
invite
thought-
Mr. may we
So
invite
Mr. Tardif
in?
has lowered his hand. I'm not sure if he'd like to speak on this matter like you suggested.
All right, if Mr. Tardif wishes to speak on it, would you please have him raise his hand so we may move forward from this procedural determination?
All right. Would you like him to join the meeting or do you want to just hear his voice?
Let's just hear his voice.
You should be able to hear him. And Paul, you need to unmute your mic.
Yep. Can you
Thank
hear?
you. Mr. Tardif, do you have any questions concerning this petition?
No, I don't. We got on late because of the lack of a password, and I was raising my hand just to make sure that someone knew I was in space here. So
All right, thank you.
I understand the concern.
Thank you. So we're going to move on this petition now. We've moved, we've taken a roll call vote. Thank you very much, Mr. Revere, Attorney Revere, and always good to see you.
Thank you very much.
Good luck with the court process. All right, so now we move on to our dilemma of the evening. Mr. Tardif is still, could we invite Mr. Tardif, you're still on, could we invite him in with video, please? It's always fun to see Paul. Well, I'm going to get to eat dinner earlier than I had thought. That's nice.
Don't count.
All right. In any event, Mr. Tardif, since you've been waiting, and anybody else that is waiting and interested in any of the meetings, any of the petitions tonight, I regret to inform you that we are not able to proceed as the passcode for how to get into the meeting was not included in the notice of meeting. As a consequence, there may be people that have a great interest in the remaining petitions, and yet they cannot participate and tell us what they have to say, either in favor or against, or offer any information. So I suggest to the board members, and I suggest to everybody at home, that we are not able to proceed in good faith. And therefore, I think that we have to call the meeting tonight and move these petitions to the next opportunity we have to get them heard. Is anybody in disagreement with that? All right, so could I have a motion, perhaps for us to adjourn due to the problem of the passcode not appearing on the notice of meeting? And we will then hopefully have a second. We'll conclude the meeting tonight and look forward to the other petitions in the future. Someone prepared to move?
So moved.
Who is that, please?
Done.
Thank you, Mr. Igo. Second.
I'll second it.
Mr. Martin seconds. Is there any need for discussion?
Just for clarification, Mr. Chairman, so is it my understanding that all petitions scheduled for tonight will be moved to the next meeting?
Well, I'm only concerned about, and thank you for raising that. It doesn't appear to me that it seems like they're all in order, so none of them are at risk of being allowed automatically due to time. If they cannot be moved to the next hearing, then I'm going to ask Ms. Clark to contact the parties and see if they, because of how many we have on the agenda on the next meeting, to have them see if we can get executed agreements to continue. So does that answer the question?
Yes, and I was just going to ask, do we have a lot of on the next agenda?
Have full agendas until March.
Full agenda.
Okay.
Okay. That's
End
just
of
a question.
February.
Sorry.
All right. Then what I'm going to suggest is you have a full agenda until March.
We have
How many on the next agenda, if you could, Sandy?
four.
Or
Why don't we add one of these?
Yeah.
why don't we add Mr. Tardif? He's here.
Well, he's the next one in order, so.
He's the next one in order. So let's add, if that works for his schedule.
That next meeting's the 28th, Mr. Tardif?
Yeah, that works for me.
Okay, so we'll move Mr. Tardif's petitions to the 28th. On the other two, I mean,
Was that both petitions for Mr. Tardif? He had two on.
what's his other one?
It's the second one for tonight.
Randall Zelch and Jessica Zelch?
Correct.
All right, you're available for that on the
I am.
28th as well?
I really would like to hear that if we could, yes.
Okay, so let's have fun that night and have 6. On my watch, we've never gone to 11 o'clock. Perhaps we can this meeting. Although I faded about 9:30.
Well, I can attest to the old days when we used to go to 11 o'clock, and I can tell you.
Yeah. Well, on my reign, we're not going to do that. That's unfair to the board members, unfair to our wonderful secretary and town assistant. So, all right. So we'll put those 2 matters on. Is that all right with everybody that's now sitting in any event?
Sure.
Mr. Martin?
Yep.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Okay. So that leaves us with the Dennis Yarmouth Regional School District, which I am going to request that they agree to a continuance, a executed document allowing us to continue this matter to the following meeting, the first Thursday meeting we have in the month of February. I can't imagine that petition's going to take too much time. So if the petition, yes.
The petitioner is in the audience. I see the superintendent, Carol Woodbury.
All right, maybe we invite them in so that they can now acknowledge that they agree and that they will execute the document when we forward it to them. Good day, Ms. Woodbury. Always good to see you.
Thank you. It's good to
Although
see
we're
you
not
too.
seeing you, we can hear you.
I'm waiting for the rest of our team to show up. We did not have a passcode. I
Yeah,
apologize for being
well,
late.
And I have to tell you, because of that reality, we are not going forward with any of the petitions this evening,
Oh, okay. Thank
including
you.
yours. So we're asking you if, in fact, you could agree that it would go over to the first Thursday meeting in the month of February. The rest of January is booked. Could you agree with that?
Whoops. I apologize. I got kicked out there for a minute and I did not hear what
Okay.
you said.
No problem. Yes, okay. We're asking that you go over, you will allow this to go over and execute an extension agreement that allows this to go over to the first Thursday meeting in the month of February.
Do you know the date? Is that the 4th?
I don't know. It would be the
February
4th.
February 11th?
Yes.
I mean, that works for me, but are any of our other group on here? The rest of our
Well, I got
group?
to tell you, it doesn't matter. We can't hear your petition substantively,
Okay.
so.
Well, then let's
They
do
better
it.
make themselves available or we'll put it on for another night at your
That
request.
sounds good to me. I'm all
right,
in.
So Sandy, if we could send to Ms. Woodbury, who is always so congenial with us, an extension agreement. I'm sure she'll execute that in regular form and return it. Now, we've had a motion on the floor that hasn't been acted on, so I'm going to take a roll call vote on the motion made by Mr. Igo and seconded by Mr. Martin to continue to now adjourn this meeting. Mr. Igo
Aye.
and Mr. Martin,
Aye.
Mr. Kelly.
Unmute
Your
yourself.
Aye,
mic.
aye. Sorry.
Thank you. And Mr. DeYoung says aye. And so thank you all very much. It's been a pleasure having a great time talking with you. And hopefully we'll get something substantive done next meeting. Okay? Good. And to the
Thank you.
audience that are listening, good night.
Good to see you. Good night.
Thank you.
Nice to see you, Steve.
Oh, it's
Steve,
always great to be seen. Yeah.
Yeah, Steve, be careful in your backyard.
Thanks for the passcode, Sean.
We'll make sure it doesn't happen again.
Sorry.
Sorry. Hey, Tim.
Hey, I'm still
I'm
with you.
sorry.
Hey, no harm, no foul. All right, ladies, so be talking to you soon. Gentlemen, take care now. Tom Barron, we didn't hear from you, but we can see your name. you can hear us, have a good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
See you, Tim.